energy.
The responsibility for this fatigue, Darren, lies essentially with the manager and the coaching staff, doesn't it? Or the responsibility for managing it.
Yeah, I think managing it, this is where your management skills come in, your man management skills, because you look at your individual players, you see who's looking a little bit tired, a little fatigued, and you may have to tweak their regime, what they do, on a daily basis, but it's a difficult one because you've got these lads who are going into games, likes of Chris Rigg and likes of Roberts, who will run, but there's only a certain amount of time that it's going to last. The tank's going to empty at some point, and this is where the squad's got to be bigger and bolder. I'm not saying, listen, you don't rotate your squad constantly because that just causes upset. You don't get the momentum going as they have done recently, but it's these times when it starts to fade off a little bit that you need those other lads to come in and step in and do a job.
And does that feed into a bigger thing then? We'll come back to Luke O'Nien in a minute, but does that feed into a bigger thing that Sunderland maybe haven't got the depth to be able to rest the likes of Chris Rigg and Joe without any fear that there's a drop in quality?
Well, that may be the case. Bearing in mind, obviously, we've had a fair few injured as well as of late, so the squad's been very thin, very light on its feet, but. Yeah, that may be the case. I think the manager may have his set kind of 11 in his head, and you've got the odd one or two who come off the bench every now and then. But this is where you need that to bolster that squad, because we're coming into a very important part of the season, and it's important that we finish as high as we can.
Well, he's going to have to make changes at Sheffield Wednesday because of the two injuries to Lefay and Ballard. So Mepham's going to come back in. That's nailed on. Mundell's going to play. Ideally, I think he would have put Lefay. He would have wanted to put Lefay in the middle as the 10, and that would have given the opportunity to give Rigg a rest.
Yeah.
But now you've got this question mark hanging over that decision because he could bring Alan Brown in.
Yeah.
He's back in the squad now. He's not played much. He's had a couple of games the under-21s. But you talk about experience. If he's willing to drop Rigg, but he did say the other week how important Rigg is to the triangles he's formed on the right-hand side. Rigg, Roberts, Hume have got this triangle which he really, really likes. He thinks that Rigg's an integral part of that triangle. Do you take him out on Friday, then knowing that you've got a week and a bit until the Cardiff game on the Saturday to give him a longer rest? I don't know. There's big question marks because, as Darren says, is it a question of does he trust his bench enough? You've got Alexic on there. You've got Poveda. We've barely seen. We don't know how sturdy he is. We've seen a cameo from Jan Poveda at the moment. We've not seen a great deal of Alexic, so he'll be desperate to get Tommy Watson back in as well. He'll be back training this week, so he's got some sort of backup for Mundell. But he's been, the Lefay injury is a blow because it's come just at the wrong time, really, in one sense. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but it's hamstring. It's not going to be a week, is it? So, they've got to get over this little spell. I thought they played fine at Leeds. They did well at Leeds. Hull was more worrying. I think there were too many signs of them looking jaded against Hull and not being able to find a way to break Hull down. And that's coming up. They've got Cardiff City, who's going to be another team, wrong end of the table, who are desperate for points, fighting for their lives. Sheffield Wednesday, there's going to be a reaction to the Burnley game. They're still in the hunt for a playoff place. There's not one game you can look at that the other team hasn't got something riding on it, because the playoff positions go right down to mid-table. The relegation issue is not entirely resolved because there are 4 or 5 teams involved in that, all showing a little upturn in form. Maybe Luton's still a bit shaky, but Plymouth's starting to get results. And so you think, Watford has started, a bit of a turnaround for them, and they're still not out of the playoff picture, even though they had quite a long run of poor results. Yeah,
and you talk about breaking teams down, and that's, you spoke to Luke O'Nien about that as well specifically.
Well, yeah, because teams like Plymouth and Watford, they've come and they've sat deep, although Watford are a bit more adventurous. It does make it harder for a tired team, because Sunderland then are less able to exploit space and get behind teams.
Yes.